Well, listen to this. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's a Republican from Kentucky, he was on the Chris Wallace show, Fox News Sunday, and he was asked by Chris Wallace, how will the Republican Party, which wants to repeal Obamacare, as you're saying you will do, how will you cover uninsured Americans? And twice he refused to answer, basically saying it's not the issue. Well, I love that it's not the issue for him, for his political games, but it is the issue to the people that aren't going to have health care. Here's Mitch McConnell.
One of the keys to Obamacare is that it will extend insurance access to 30 million people who are now uninsured. In your replacement, how would you provide universal coverage?
Well, first let me say the single best thing we could do for the American healthcare system is to get rid of Obamacare.
Okay, stop it right there. Let's go through this, analyzing the tactics that these guys are trained with for media training. What he's done right now is, instead of first answering the question at its face, he's restating the best thing we can do is repeal Obamacare. So he's reestablishing the talking point, okay? Right. Let's continue.
Get rid of the $500 billion in Medicare cuts. Get rid of the $500 billion in taxes. In other words, the single biggest step we could take in the direction of improving American health care is to get rid of this monstrosity. But if I may, sir,
okay, so Chris Wallace is interrupting to ask again. The best question there from Chris Wallace would be, how would doing that specifically improve the health care of America? That's the question that you put in there. We don't get that question, but that's okay. We get another question from Chris Wallace, which is, hey, you're not answering my question. Let's see.
About repeal and replace, how would you provide universal coverage?
I'll get to it in a minute.
Right.
The first step we...
Don't rush me. I need to recite more talking points, Chris. Please, I'll get to your question in a minute.
...need to take is to get rid of what's there. This job-killing proposal that has all of these cuts to existing health care providers. Secondly, we need to go step by step to replace it with more modest reforms. There will not be a 2,700-page Republican alternative.
Right. So here we're getting into this idea. This is the Republican meme that
small government.
If there's a lot of pages, by definition, it's a bad bill. It should be repealed. It's socialist. Obama is a left-handed law professor. That's what they do. They write a lot of pages. You know what I'm saying, Lewis? It's following that meme. We need less pages. That's what we need.
We will not take a meat axe to the American healthcare system. We will pull out a scalpel and go step by step and make the kinds of more modest changes that would deal with the principal issue, which is cost. Things like interstate sales of health insurance. Right now, you don't have competition around the country in the selling of health insurance. That's a mistake.
Okay, eventually, we finally get to the question once again from Chris Wallace. Here we go.
And doctors in defensive medicine.
But respectfully, sir, we're going to run out of time, and I just want to ask what...
Yeah, you've been filibustering my question for 2 minutes now, and the segment's ending. The program will end because you've been filibustering for so long. What about answering the question?
Specifically, are you going to do to provide universal coverage to the 30 million people who are uninsured?
That is not the issue. The question is, how can you go step by step to improve the American healthcare system? It is already the finest healthcare system in the world.
Incorrect.
But you don't think the 30 million...
What our friends on the other...
You don't think the 30 million people who are uninsured is an issue?
Let me tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to turn...
Classic. This guy's doing everything that is you get asked the question...
What a clown.
What better way to waste time than to list things you're not going to do?
Especially when you know there's a time limit, you can just filibuster and never have to answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you just keep listing things you aren't going to do. Listen, we are not going to turn control of healthcare over to rhesus monkeys. We are not going to let Neil deGrasse Tyson manage healthcare from lower Earth orbit in a personal spacecraft. We're not going to use kryptonite instead of Advil as an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory, Chris. We're just not going to do any of those things.
He's also not going to make sure that those 30 millions are insured.
And, I'm sorry, because you were telling us you weren't going to turn over healthcare control to monkeys, we're now out of time. Sorry.
You know, honestly, I mean, it kind of sucks because people don't really know who Mitch McConnell is. But if people did recognize him, then Obama, for his campaign in November, could just run that thing and just say, what are you going to do to insure 30 million Americans? That's not the issue.
Yeah,
just keep on running that on a loop.
That should be looped, no question about it. So, you know what? Brilliant filibustering from Mitch McConnell, but that's the real issue. It's not the issue to him. And he said before, the #1 priority is getting Obama out of office. Okay.